He went to school at Lake Grove Elementary some years ago, and his mom taught there too, and she's sitting back here, and she's visiting. So Chris is the golf pro and the historian for the Tualatin Country Club, which I understand is the oldest continuous business in Tualatin.
Actually, before Tualatin was started. Yeah.
Before
the name Tualatin.
Oh.
1913.
1913, yes, we became an official city. So and he came to the Historical Society here, to the Heritage Center, several months ago, wanting to get more history about the country club, and actually he had more than we had. So he's done a lot of research, and so we welcome you, Chris, to our history program.
All right, thank you. I'm really excited to be here. My mom is here, as you can. She said we moved here in 1977. So when we were here, it was a lot of open fields and kind of a small town. And I was doing some Google Maps, and Tualatin Country Club, proximity-wise, was as closest to where I grew up, and I didn't know that. So life kind of goes full circle sometimes, and here I am speaking to you about Tualatin Country Club. My mom would take me to the library, and she would want me to read books, and I hated them. I just didn't like to read at all, and the only thing that I would read would be books about sports, and then I started getting into it. And that's kind of the backstory of me diving into history and reading, and so all these years later, here I am talking about the history of Tualatin Country Club, established in 1912.
Wow.
Which is amazing in and of itself, that something started way back when is here today. And before I get started, I want to kind of do like a theme of this speech, and that is that there was these people that wanted to play golf, and there was a lot of obstacles in their way. So many of you have had obstacles in your life, and how did you go about it? Well, these small group of people, there's a thing in the Bible that talks about having mustard seed sized faith, just a little tiny bit, and 112 years later, this is an example of that. Tualatin Country Club is a top 15 club as a private club in the Northwest, which is an amazing achievement when you think about what they had to deal with at the very beginning. So as we go along, I'm going to go through a lot of stuff that you may already know, just because it's exciting for me to talk about, even if it's a review for you also. We're going to get going here. And what does the Tualatin name mean? Well, obviously, Tualatin is the tribe, and there's a lot of speculation as to what that name actually means. I did a lot of research. Actually went to the Grand Ronde Museum to figure out even more, and there's still a lot of debate, but I think my best guess is that it's called We the People, and We the People can be at different places, but it's by the lake. So Lake Wapato is the area of center hub for the Tualatin tribe. And a little side note as I was going through it is that Tualatin this area was not the first town with a Tualatin name. It was actually Forest Grove. Some of you may already know that, and that makes sense because it's by Wapato Lake. So I see some people going, I did something good. Get you thinking. All right. So I'm gonna have little videos throughout. This is a presentation that I did to the members of Tualatin Country Club. We had 150 people there, and they were really excited. And there's a lot of great work that was done behind the scenes in getting these videos prepared. So I'm going to help you let you watch this and enjoy it.
In the spring of 1912, the inception of Tualatin Country Club was not merely the establishment of a new golf course, but the manifestation of a pioneering vision for social and sporting excellence in the Pacific Northwest. Conceived by visionaries including Rabbi Jonah Wise, Governor Julius Meyer, and Roscoe Nelson III's grandfather. Roscoe Nelson and Tualatin are synonymous, as the Nelson name is the only one that has been connected to the club continually since its inception, marking 3 generations of steadfast dedication and involvement. This collective foresight, significantly influenced by experiences from the Jewish club in Richmond, Virginia, aimed to create not just a premier private club, but a sanctuary for community, inclusivity, and fellowship. The club, which stands as the oldest Jewish country club west of the Mississippi and a beacon of heritage and community west of the Rockies, was founded on a journey to scout land that offered ideal natural contours for a challenging golf course, while embracing Oregon's breathtaking landscape. The selection of renowned architects for both the course and the rustic yet elegant clubhouse underscored a commitment to quality, sustainability, and the creation of a haven for golfers and a gathering place for the community. Overcoming exclusionary societal norms of the time, Tualatin set a precedent by offering memberships to Jewish residents of Portland, building its spirit on openness, equality, and a belief in a space where everyone, irrespective of background, could unite over their love for the game. This foundational spirit of inclusivity, along with the club's early spirit of innovation and the continuous legacy of the Nelson family, have defined Tualatin's character and legacy, setting a high standard for private clubs in the region and enduring for generations.
All right. So we're gonna take a little trip down a little bit more detailed information on a lot of things that you've already seen. I'm sure if you're a part of Tualatin, you know about the floods. And obviously you've probably seen this before, but as a lot of water was dumped into our area as a kid growing up in Lake Grove, I would go fishing in the little rock quarry over by Bridgeport. And, as I'm going through the research, I'm like, hey, how come there's sand? Why does a golf course drain so well at Tualatin? And I asked Scott Burns, and he goes, oh yeah, that's Missoula flood sand. So I was like, all right. So, when you think about golf, what do we love about golf? Well, if any of you ever played, most of you, raise your hand if you like to see the ball go far. Yeah. Well, have you ever tried to hit balls in mud? It doesn't go very good, right? You love that sand because it's firm and the ball rolls. So that's what we love about golf. And of course, when you're done with your round, you're gonna have to scrape the mud off your cuffs. All right, so this is, I don't know if you're familiar, but it does rain here. Just let you know there. So anyway, so here we go. We got the water coming in. I copied this from, and you can see where the railroad tracks are there. And then the water comes out, the eddies and the pools, and there's a little area of sand. So again, it excites me because it's golf. So I think about, how much effort would be to put that much sand down on the golf course, and it's already there. So it's pretty cool. I'm not going to go into the details of this Missoula flood, let somebody else speak on that, but we're going to talk a little bit about the tribe as well at Tualatin. So again, I did a bunch of research on that, and a lot of the winter houses, villages, were close by the Tualatin Country Club, and they would pick blackberries, and that's one of the things that our golfers will notice when they go down onto the 7th tee box on the left, is a whole bunch of blackberries, and you don't want to pick the ones down below. I'll let you figure that one out. But anyway, so they have a lot of people have come through Tualatin and wondered, what is the name? What does it mean? So this was part of the the main thing was to help people understand their heritage, that they weren't the first people that were there, and that we have a lot of gratitude for many of the things that we have, which is beautiful trees and great sand from the Missoula flood. So on to the next, which is going to be donation claims. So some of you are familiar with the name Sweek, and that's the property that's here, and it's also the property that's at Tualatin Country Club. And John and Marie Sweek sold their land to the founders of Tualatin Country Club, and they sold it in a really nice way of doing it, where they gave them half the land. It was a lease with the option to buy, with able to purchase more land, and it was perfectly situated right by the railroad tracks, so they could come from Portland. This was before cars, and they came in there and they stopped at they called it Golf Station, right? And side note, the very first building that was ever put on Tualatin Country Club was an old railroad shed, where they literally picked up, moved it across the road, and put it over right on the corner of the property, just as we come straight back. And they had a little tin shower, and it was just very, nothing. But that was the very start of the club. So the railroads had a very big impact in how the club was formed. So there's a picture of the donation claim. So you can see, I think it was 132 acres. And that was, you can see where the river is, so that's Tualatin right there. So I found that in my research, so it's the actual original claim, which is kind of cool. So, all right, so when we think of Tualatin Country Club, it's really a club founded by Jewish pioneers. And the Jewish pioneers were essential at building not only communities and things like Tualatin Country Club in this area, but all on the West Coast. They were leaders in terms of community building. So there is a thing called the Third Golden Age. So in Jewish scholars, they viewed it their time in history, and there was 3 ages where they had unfiltered ability to just be themselves and grow their community without any opposition. And the first one was when King David and King Solomon, and then in Spain in the 1200s, and then 1850 to 1900 in the Western United States was considered the Third Golden Age. And so many of these pioneers that came here, they weren't looked upon any different from anybody else. It was a rustic living here. So if you helped each other out and you were a good person, that was all that mattered. And so as they started to arrive into this area, of course, one of them that is a name you're familiar with, Aaron Wise, and there's a whole great article about him if you want to look up. But he was one of the early founders here. Excuse me, not Aaron Wise, Aaron Meyer. Yeah, sorry, Aaron Meyer. So, but before I go into that side of things, I just want to kind of button up the feeling of the Jewish pioneers, what they were about, how were they to others, and there's a word in their language called Seduka. And that word is a community-based word. It's outpouring. It is giving to others when your heart stirs you. And so within that context, you can now want everybody to kind of see throughout its entire history how that laid the framework for their beliefs and their practices of how they treated all the locals here in Tualatin. Many of the locals here became, had great successes because of this group of people that came here and brought this golf course because they treated them like their own. So there's a lot of meaning behind this. And so that is something that I want to, so there's Meyer and Frank. And obviously Julius Meyer, grandson of Aaron Meyer, became the first general manager for Tualatin Country Club. He was the first independent governor of Oregon, and he helped Nellie become a great teacher in Tualatin. Those of you know that name. And yes, and so Julius, I'm going to say the game Sudoku. So Julius took that to heart. He just saw Nellie and said, that's a person I like, and I'm going to help this person out. And that spirit continues to move forward throughout its history. So Meyer and Frank at one time became the fourth largest store in the country. Yes. And then we're going to go a little bit further into the Concordia Club. So the Concordia Club is a men's-only Jewish social club, and it was popular back then for everybody to get together, and it was starting to lose its steam. And from the Concordia Club, there were several people that wanted to maybe interested in golf, and so they got together. So the original founding of the club came from Concordia Club, and they were Jewish Reform. They were all part of the Jewish Reformers. So they came here, and when you can see it up here as the bylaws, it's pretty expansive. But many of the structures, the president, vice president, secretary, Greens Committee, House Committee, all those things were present at the Concordia Club was transferred over. So that is kind of a little bit of background on the Jews.
With the increasing popularity of golf in the early 20th century, Tualatin Country Club swiftly adapted its offerings to cater to the growing demand, marking a significant pivot toward becoming a golf-centric institution. This era saw strategic enhancements to the golf course, spearheaded by the visionary leadership of Rabbi Jonah Wise on the Greens Committee, and the introduction of Oregon's first bent grass greens, a revolutionary move at the time, which set a new standard for golf course quality in the region. The club's commitment to excellence and innovation was recognized in 2022 when it was honored as Oregon's Golf Facility of the Year, a reflection not just of the club's superior facilities, but also its role in nurturing the sports development in Oregon through hosting prestigious tournaments and fostering a vibrant golfing community. The strategic course renovations underscored Tualatin dedication to maintaining a challenging yet accessible course for golfers of all levels, ensuring its status as a premier golfing destination. This rich tapestry of Tualatin Country Club's history is intricately woven with the broader narrative of golf in Oregon, highlighted by the contributions of Ed Neustadter in the creation of the Oregon Golf Association, and the legacy of Bob McReynolds, who dedicated his life to chronicling the evolution of golf in the region. Their efforts have left an indelible mark on Oregon's golf landscape, reinforcing Tualatin's position as a cornerstone of golfing excellence and heritage in the Pacific Northwest.
All right, so once they have the idea of a golf course, somebody's got to design it. And if you're into golf at all, it's kind of a big deal, like who designs your golf course. And this being said, you know, the people within Tualatin Country Club, they didn't have the biggest funds, they weren't going to get the biggest names, and yet we had a Juner that was the family, an amazing family. They came from Aberdeenshire, Scotland, and they called it back then the Royal and Ancient Game. Yes, it still is. And so they came here, and George Scotty Jr., go ahead and let you see this. He designed 33 golf courses in the Portland area. It was the golden age of golf in this area, Oregon. And you can see some of the names that are here. One of them, I like to highlight the Astoria Country Club, one of the big private clubs in Oregon. And George Scotty Jr. was a big part of that. So he was Tualatin Country Club's first greenskeeper. And a relative of his, John Jr., was the first golf pro. And as it was said, well, of course, if you had a golf course, you would have to have a Scottish pro. Of course. So that was the start of Tualatin Country Club. That spans quite a bit of time when you think about that, right? No one expects to think about Scotland and a pro. So it's definitely a trip down memory lane. So John Jr. had a very successful career. He actually went to Portland Golf Club, became their first general manager. Once the first 9 was designed, because they couldn't get the whole land right away, so the area that was the Sweek land, there was a peach farm, was all cleared out, so they were able to make that 9 holes pretty quickly. But the second 9, they had to get rid of all these big evergreen trees. So it took them a little while, it took them some money to get established, and then they said, all right, we're going to get a big name designer to come here and do the golf course, Chandler Egan. If you're a golf nerd like myself, you would know that name. If you'd just be like, I don't know who's Chandler Egan. So we're just going to go ahead and give you a few snippets of, who Chandler is. He won the U.S. Amateur. He was a gold medal winner. Yada yada. He's a great golfer. And some people, and I'll say it, he was Bobby Jones before Bobby Jones, if you're familiar with that name. And so one of his great design achievements was he redesigned 17 of the 18 greens at Pebble Beach, including several of the greens 7 and 17. One of them, the hourglass shape on 17, that was Chandler's design. And Chandler was responsible for many high-end private clubs in our area: Riverside, Eugene Country Club, Oswego Lake, Eastmoreland, he designed that one as well, a bunch of other courses. So we're very fortunate to have Chandler Egan as the designer, and that is him there at Pebble Beach. And he was, what a gentleman. Man, yeah, you do research on him, is pretty amazing. All right, so as the course finally got designed full 18 holes, they were really excited, and they were like, well, we want to be, considered a top club like Waverly. I'm going to step aside just a second and let you know, okay, so when the Reform movement, the Jewish Reform movement, they wanted to have their own golf course, they were not allowed to be members of Waverly. And that was the reason why they had to create their own golf course, because of that exclusion. And so they had this goal, well, we're going to make our course as good as Waverly, Well, what did Waverly do? They had all these championships hosted at their course. So they wanted to have their own, signify that, yes, we're at that same level. So it was a big moment when in 1922, Tualatin Country Club hosted the Oregon State Championship, which is now considered the Oregon Amateur, part of the Oregon Golf Association, which is now celebrating its 100th year. And Tualatin member was one of the original founders and actually came up with the idea to do it. So Tualatin is very responsible not only for its own club and what it does, but its outreach into the community and golf at large. And so we're really grateful for those people way back when. They helped everybody out. So golfing pioneers, we continue on. So there's several names up here that I want to highlight. There's so many that I could go through, but I only have so much time. So I started with Walter Eames. Walter Eames was a local resident here, and he was a longtime superintendent, 30 plus years, and family members all involved at different stages. But one of the things that Walter was great at was being very creative in a very small budget, thinking about that mustard seed. So he found out ways to do stuff, including creating the very first nursery with the normal practice nowadays, but he created a whole green separate that he could just pull the turf from and replace it on areas that looked bad. And then all the other golf courses started following suit. So Walter was a pioneer, as I like to call it. And so he also worked heavily with Dr. Millard Rosenblatt. Dr. Millard Rosenblatt is a Oregon Sports Hall of Fame member. He's a Guinness Book of Records for the longest time between club championships, at 54 years, and he had won 12 of them in total. He teamed with Walter Eames during a lot of these challenging times to create the continuity of the club. Way back in the 30s and 40s, Depression era and everything else, they didn't have the greatest machinery. So in order to keep the courses going, sometimes the grass would grow up and they didn't have enough staff. So the courses would close down. And so Eames had his son with a sickle, you know, cutting grass as a 12-year-old. So those are just little snippets of stuff that, you know, I find that just amazes me, that mustard seed of faith, that they just kept going no matter what, even when things aren't looking like it is today. So it's something to remember. And then of course, I just cannot say enough about Bob McReynolds. So Bob grew up right across from the tracks at Tualatin Country Club. He was a caddy, and the members really loved Bob, and they helped him out in his career, and including Millard, Dr. Millard, who helped him out when he was sick, or not when he got hurt. And so he spent a lifetime of repaying all that good Sudoku to the rest of everybody else in Oregon golf. He became the golf historian for Oregon Golf Association. And when he passed away in '99, he had all these books with everything about every club in the area. He was an unbelievable researcher, and he had a whole bunch on Tualatin he was going to give it, and then he passed away. And so when I started looking into it, I started, you know, hunting around, searching, and all of a sudden I go, "Oh, this is Bob McReynolds guy." And one of the members said, "Oh yeah, I know who he is. You might want to go to OGA and find if he's got some stuff there." And I found the mother load of you know, stuff. So I got some books here you can look at. But what an amazing guy. Just everybody that I've ever heard talk about him, and he really carried on that mantle of giving back. So just want to say thanks to Bob, and even though he's not here, I'm sure he'd be really thrilled that this is happening. So, and here we go.
In recent decades, Tualatin Country Club has adeptly navigated the changing landscape of golf and club management by merging tradition with innovation, ensuring its ongoing relevance and competitiveness. The club's significant renovation in the 1990s, spearheaded by architects Bob Cupp and John Fote, revitalized both the course and clubhouse, reflecting a commitment to environmental stewardship and blending aesthetic enhancements with a reinvigorated ethos. This project was pivotal, emphasizing conservation efforts and introducing advanced training facilities to cater to a changing member demographic, particularly younger golfers. John Fote, the first Oregonian U.S. amateur champion and a pivotal figure in this transformation, exemplified this blend of respect for golfing traditions with a progressive approach to club development. His architectural expertise not only modernized the course, but also solidified Tualatin's legacy as a club that respects its heritage while embracing contemporary needs. Through these efforts, Tualatin Country Club has established itself as a model of how to sustainably evolve, ensuring its place as a premier golfing destination that honors its past while looking to the future.
All right, so I'm, again, a presentation I did for the members. And so as I was thinking about how I was going to present to you all, and many of you aren't golfers, but I wanted it to be where it's like you're inside the club and you're a member and you're getting the history, so you can kind of get a feel of what it's like being a member or being a part of Tualatin Country Club. So John Fote is a big name inside of Tualatin. He joined when he was very young and started caddying for several years. And he picked up the game, and he broke 70 when he was 13 or 14, and the head pro gave him a X'd out golf ball, and he was just thrilled to death that he won it. It was, you know, you talk to somebody that, you know, I don't want to say his age, but he's definitely up there, that, you know, that was a big moment for him. And so Tualatin really paved the way for John Fote's career. and he moved his way up in the world of golf, and highlighted by his U.S. Amateur victory. And I'm going to show you here a couple things to think about as it relates to John Fote. So, yeah, like I said, he won the U.S. Amateur, but then when he decided to turn pro, he won back-to-back weeks on the PGA Tour. That's a pretty big achievement as a golfer coming, through Tualatin Country Club. Well, what does that mean in the world of golf? Well, here are the names that have only done that. These are 8 names that have done that before. We got Arnold Palmer, Jack Nicklaus, Tiger Woods, Phil Mickelson, a few names you might have heard of, and John Fote. All right, we're going to take a little step further though. He had an unbelievable year in 1977. He was ranked #1 in the world as an amateur. He won the Trans-Miss, he won the U.S. Amateur, he was undefeated in Walker Cup play, and back-to-back PGA Tour events, both him and Jack Nicklaus. And funny story with John and Jack, because we play golf randomly, and we might have a chance to play with somebody. Well, when you're on the PGA Tour, you get a chance to play with like Jack Nicklaus. That's pretty cool. All right, so John's playing with Jack, and he's like, hey, I'd really like to see a big name tournament come to Portland area. What do you think? And he's like, well, I got a friend of mine named Bob Cobb. He's looking for some help. It sounds like you'd be a pretty good addition to his team. It sounds like you got some chops to become a designer. So sure enough, he became attached with Bob Cup, and they became quite the team in this area. They designed the Reserve, Pumpkin Ridge, Langdon Farms, Crosswater, some of the best golf courses in the area. But his very first design work actually came at Tualatin. His very first picture that he did was here. So it was the start of a career that is still going on today. He's got many, many projects all throughout the country. He's one of the best designers in the world, and we're lucky to have him be a part of Tualatin's history, and he continues to be a member for 56 years. So thinking about that mustard seed, little idea, John, recipient of that, right? Little things can become big things. There he is.
Beyond its lush fairways and challenging greens, Tualatin Country Club evolved into a social nucleus, renowned for its unwavering commitment to fostering inclusivity and camaraderie among its members. This commitment was vividly illustrated when the club welcomed the Leisure Hour Club, an African-American golf league, to host their annual tournament, breaking new ground at a time when racial exclusions were commonplace in private clubs. Tualatin's vibrant social scene was marked by a plethora of events that catered to the diverse interests of its membership. These gatherings were not just social events. They were a testament to the club's foundational belief in the power of community, offering a sanctuary where lasting friendships were formed, and every member felt a sense of belonging. The club's proactive approach to social inclusivity set a benchmark for private clubs, championing a culture of openness and mutual respect.
All right, so at the end of talking about Tualatin Country Club, you really just have to go, I could just sum up with one person, Roscoe Nelson. So Roscoe was a huge name in the Reform movement. His brother was a rabbi. He was very close to that movement, and he was an attorney. The original Roscoe Nelson actually was in the U.S. Supreme Court for a couple cases, so he did all right for himself. And he founded the club based on his experience in Virginia. They also had a private club there that was Jewish only. And for Roscoe's, legacy, when you talk about that mustard seed of faith, when you try to think about, what is your legacy? Well, Roscoe created a legacy, didn't he? I mean, going from that little tiny idea to Now he has a grandson that's still a member there. He was past president. There's Roscoe with his dad and his grandfather, and he still practices law today. Got a beautiful office in downtown. I've been to it. It's wonderful. Such a nice person. And he's what Sudoku means. You know, he does a lot of things behind the scenes, like Dr. Millard Rosenblatt, you know, and how it affected Nellie Welsh and Bob McReynolds. So when you think about Tualatin, it's not just this little tiny private club. When you see private on that sign, it is nothing the opposite of private. It is, how can I help? And it's not just amongst themselves, it's the community at large, and, you know, talking with others that have been in the community for a while, where it helped in getting the hospital here, right? So Tualatin's been very essential, really kind of a sparkle, a shining light for this area. That's what kind of how I view it. So this is the summary. Kind of put this up today because I wanted to kind of get a full, you know, idea of what it's about. So it was founded in 1912. It was Jewish only. Second oldest club in Portland, fourth oldest in the state. It was also responsible for founding the Oregon Golf Association. And in 1963, it opened its doors to all people, non-Jews. And I put a little name in there, Kurt Tigard. He's a very big name in Tualatin Country Club, was a member there for many, many, many years. And he joined in 64 as the fifth non-Jew. 1969, clubhouse burnt down. They put in a brand new building. It's still there today. It is magnificent. So if you've ever been over there, it overlooks the water, and the ballroom's amazing. So anybody who wants to do an event, you know where to go to. And then talking about John Fote, going into the modern era. You know, golf ball goes further, and we need to have longer golf courses. And so that was John, and he played it many, many times, so he knew what he wanted. And of course, sustainability for the future. In 2005, it became a cooperative sanctuary designation from the Audubon International. And they've been very good over the years in taking care of the land, and they've got eagles there, bald eagles. It's the highlight of every member when they come into the golf course in the morning. They hear the eagles flying around and doing all sorts of stuff that bald eagles do, but it's amazing. You know, people spend a lot of time just staring up there going, I'm going to golf today, okay. And then just doing my research, being a PGA pro, you know, I get all the numbers, and to be able to see that Tualatin Country Club is in the top 15 in the Northwest, I go back to those original, those 40 founding members, and they said, we're going to have an elite private club. And boy, did it not look like that for a long time. It did not look like that. But they carried on, they kept carrying on. Walter Eames, you know, just think of those names, right? And all the caddies and everybody. And here we are, we got the OGA Golf Facility of the Year, and they're a top workplace in Oregon. The founder, Jonah Wise, believed in 40-hour work weeks and treating each other right, Sudoku. So that's where we're at with Tualatin Country Club for the first 112 years. And we've got some more years to come, hopefully. So.
As Tualatin Country Club stands on the cusp of its next century, it envisions a future where tradition and innovation converge to create an unparalleled golfing and social experience. The club is poised to embark on new projects that embrace technological advancements in golf, further environmental sustainability efforts, and expand its community outreach.
All right, so again, that mustard seed, I just say it, you know, a small idea to a big, big thing. And a lot of people involved to make it happen. And since I'm here at Tualatin Heritage Center, I will have to say that without a doubt, as much as we talk about the Jewish pioneers, this place would never have existed if it wasn't for all of the Tualatin members, the citizens of Tualatin that made it happen. Because it was all Tualatin people that made the golf course happen. It was not, you know, as much as, you know, they all had to work. So, all right, question and answer time. Yeah, thank you.